Hey, nice shooting, Tammy. Good job. And Luca here, I hear, is a pretty good shot with a gun as well.
I've been known to hit a few bullseyes.
Good stuff. Well, this is Luca Petryshyn, and he's one of the brewers for Yellowhead Brewery. And we are with Luca to learn all about the brewing process. As you can see, there's a lot of equipment here. We're going to find out how it all works. So, number one step, where do we start?
Well, I guess it's going to start out in the fields where our farmers grow their grain. And they're going to malt that and send it to us. So our first step is really to grind that and put it into our hopper. We collect all the grains right up there in our hopper, and then we're going to turn that into our mash. If you guys have a look, this is where all those grains are going to flow down, right into this thing.
Okay, and I'm going to come up there with you because I'm curious to see what it looks like inside so I can describe for you.
Have a look in there.
So it's a big bin, and I'm assuming that big metal thing is going to grind around and around and turn it into a nice paste.
So those are called the rakes, and that's going to stir our grains as they're mixed with hot water. Our goal is basically to create a nice hot barley soup.
Ooh.
And we're going to bring that up to a really hot temperature and try to create this nice wort.
Okay.
And wort is basically, you can think of it as pre-beer. And once we've hit our temperature, we're going to drain that wort out from the bottom of the mash tun, and that's called lautering. We're going to lauter all that wort over into our kettle. That's this part.
What does this hold in volume? It's pretty big.
It's pretty big. Usually we do, for us, it's about 35 hectoliters. So it's the size of this one that matters more than the size of this one.
All right. And what happens in this one? This is where the wort goes, and there's another process. So first of all, what is wort?
Wort is basically pre-beer. It's the hot water that's been mixed with the barley. So it's full of something called starch and simple sugars, right? And that's going to be necessary for the yeast when we hit the fermentation stage. So once the wort is inside of our big kettle, we're going to add the hops. We're going to hit a nice hot boil, and we're going to add about 3 or 4 different hops additions for our beer.
Okay.
And hops are going to have the bittering, or you could think of it as also an aromatic flavor to the beer.
And one thing that I love about the way they describe their beer on their website is it is alive with a gentle effervescent. So does that have something to do with the flavoring?
Absolutely. It's a very balanced, simple beer. It's a beer drinker's beer. It's not as complex as other microbrews, but it's definitely tasty and refreshing.
Nice sales pitch. Okay, so what happens in the next process?
So once we get the wort that has its hops in it, we're going to push it into one of our fermentation vessels. And this is where the most important part happens. Fermentation is the most important aspect of making beer. And we're going to add yeast, which is going to make that whole process happen. So once the wort is inside one of our vessels, we're going to add, a couple buckets or full of yeast, and it's going to eat those simple sugars and transform them into alcohol.
Huh. How long did it take you to learn all this? Where did you go to brewery school?
I've got a really good teacher. Yeah, you've got to read a few books, but I've got to say Anthony Richardson, he's the man who taught me most of what I know, and so.
Excellent. So no actual bricks and mortar school to learn how to be a brewer.
There's a lot of great places you can go to learn about it, but I've learned on the job.
Okay, so we have our big vessel over here, and there's beer inside right now. Can I take a little sampling and tell us what this beer is going to be like?
Absolutely. So looking at tank number 2 right here, this is going to be a beer that's just entering its final stages of fermentation. So it's going to have a lot of yeast still in suspension in the beer.
Here we go.
But it's already going to have some of the flavor profiles and malt character that you'd expect of a regular Yellowhead that's already been filtered.
Okay, so for our viewers at home, yay Canada Day. It's nice. It's very aromatic, like you said, flavorful, and really nice, light, lemony, citrusy notes to it. Am I getting that right? Is that how you describe it?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to take a sip. Very foamy at this point.
Yep.
And tell us why.
It actually has to do with the spout and the way you're pouring it out.
Okay, so I'm a bad pourer. That's my fault.
No, we often add an addition called, it looks like a pig's tail, and it cools the beer down as it comes out. And so the foaminess is just about how fast it's coming out, yeah.
Well, it smells great. Cheers to you guys. How many days after this does it need to mature to get to its true prime?
This beer is going to sit probably for another month before we're ready to sell it.
So I'm drinking this about a month too early, but fabulous procedure, and you guys do such a phenomenal job, and it's really cool to actually learn the details of how it works, and this is what you do every day. You must love your job.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Luca. We're going to take a quick break on Shaw TV. We'll be right back from the Yellowhead Brewery.